Hello, 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 hello. Okay, so this new Facebook, I never know when I'm live. If I'm not live, am I live? Let me just check and make sure that I am on, right? Before I jump into this, right? Hello, hello, hello. I think that I'm live. So, welcome, you guys. Happy May. I'm super excited that it's May. A little biased because it has two of my favorite days in it. That would be my birthday, May 7th, and that would be Mother's Day, where God gave me the best gift of my life, and that is my son and becoming a mother. So, May is amazing to me. And so, I'm hoping and I'm praying that no matter where you are at this time, no matter what's going on, quarantine, post quarantine, for some people that are like breaking free. And I'm not even sure that's a good idea, y'all, but that's a conversation for another day. I hope your May is starting off beautiful, refreshing. I'm hoping that you're able to take advantage of spring because we have sprung, especially here in California. Yesterday, I had the pleasure of doing a little, like, what do you call it? Like car ocean drive-bys, which I've been doing a lot better just to like restore, right? Restore, taking care of ourselves. I'm realizing that we are truly the ones that put ourselves in boxes and in cages because of this. So for those of you that are new to me, hello, hello, hello. My name is Brooke-Sidney. I'm a spiritual wellness coach and speaker, as well as a soul story coach. I truly help women love themselves and the lives they are presently living. I do that in two ways. I do that obviously through spiritual wellness coaching and speaking, where I love to talk about things like soulful mindfulness, really being present, aware, intentional, right, about our lives, hunkering down into our moments, calling all that we do and celebrate God and the divine, sacred, and truly relishing each and every moment. I also do this with mindset, having a renewed mindset. I like to think of it as a miracle mindset because that is where we can produce like these miracles that are called manifestation, which is the last part. And then I really help people using those principles elevate and up level their lives so that they can have whatever they want, right? Because happiness is truly an inward journey that then's reflected outwardly. And that's where we get that inner and outer abundance, right? So many people look at my life and they're like, wow, how did you do that? And I help those women that are interested in truly up leveling and loving their lives right now. So if that's you, make sure you message me. And then for those that are called to write a book, I help people create, I feel like, magic and beauty out of their stories, their transformations in the form of a book. Some people I help with their website content or white papers or even ebooks, but really making sure that we're creating with God and the divine so that the best story, the highest story is getting out, not only just to serve you and your story, but more importantly, to help and heal others. And I do that as a ghostwriter, author, coach, editor, and publishing consultant. So let's talk about today's MindSoulful Monday, right? Let's talk about the gift that's in quarantine. I know that we have been kind of, I feel like for many of us, quiet, right? Quarantine has given us, if nothing else, especially through like physical distancing. I don't want to say social distancing because in many respects, it has helped us do more and more connection. And especially, which is one of the things I want to talk about, connecting with the right people and making sure that we are spending quality time, whether remotely, right, because of quarantine, but that we're now able to kind of think through and be intentional about the time that we want to spend and who we want to send it with, as well as who's going to value it. And so, Baba?
And I'm just sitting next to you.
Okay, so he wants to join in too. So that's another benefit of the gift of quarantine, right? Is having our children around, having our families around, being able to have unique, I feel like, experiences that we may not have had before quarantine. But today I really want to talk about one specific thing about quarantine. In fact, if you caught last week's MindSoulful Monday, I was talking all about kind of the clarity that quarantine has brought for us and to make sure that we are getting the lessons that are being birthed right now. I love that idea, that God is birthing things through us all the time. And so we have these quiet periods, these incubation periods, these slowdown periods. It really allows us to figure out what indeed we're birthing. And so I got the idea, and I really feel like it was a download, that quarantine is truly giving out permission slips. Yes, permission slips. Like, and how I'm thinking about this, and see if you can vibe with me, see if you can like get into the energy with me, follow what I'm saying, is that so many of us wait for disruptions in life. We wait for the divorce. Hey, I've been there. We wait for the birth of the child. We've waited until we get fired or let off from a job. We've waited until that man leaves. We've waited until all of a sudden now we have a parent or something that's aging or that we have to take care of, like transitions, disruptions, things that happen out of the norm that then cause us to be like, how am I going to really fully be myself and process that situation and move through it? So God, I feel like, because we're going to call it all good, we're going to call everything good. God gave us quarantine. And for many of us that are using this incubation period, this slowdown period, this time with ourselves, this time with our loved ones, as well as with God and the divine, we are using that as a permission slip to clear out what is not working so that we can have room and space for what we want to work. Does that make sense what I'm saying? And for many of us, quarantine has given us the permission slip to say hello to some new things and goodbye to some old things, right? Because in this moment right now, especially when things are very, very simple, right? Or if many of us, I know there's people out there that are experiencing loss with this time and with pain. And loss and pain also provide the same illumination. They show the value of things in our lives, and they show kind of what's not necessary. And so I believe, and what I feel like God, the divine, is calling me to share today is about permission slips. So I'm going to invite the people that are listening to me, hanging out with Bubba and I, to start thinking about what permission slips do you need to be given out and be taking for yourself. Because honestly, and like the women that I coach and I teach, we give ourselves permission, right? We are the ones mentally and spiritually that are defining our lives, right? Because God's given it to us all. And so we're the ones honestly putting limits and boxes and taking things and defining them. And oftentimes we're shrinking out of the power that we've been given. And so what quarantine is, if you weren't doing it for yourself, I want to give you the friendly reminder to give yourself permission. Because quarantine has definitely given us all permission to rethink the status quo. Because the status quo, it's blown up. Boom, doesn't exist. Pre-quarantine, life is normal, gone. We're now figuring out what life's going to be post-quarantine. But I want to encourage you to give yourself permission to just start defining it for yourself, to start thinking about what it would look like, right? In this next season for you, to give yourself permission to be in environments that celebrate you and not tolerate you, to be in relationships where you're loved, cared, and supported and nurtured, especially as a woman, relationships where you're seen and you're heard and you're valued, right? And I would also say things that are helping you grow, right? Like permission to try and take risk and do things that stretch you, right? So as we are in this like period in between the post and the new, the post and the pre and so forth, right? When we're in this transition period, you have the opportunity now to fully step into the next level you. You have the opportunity to shed your old skin. You can leave all that is not working for you, all that is not in alignment, all that God did not design for you, but somehow we've picked it up and we've chosen it. Gosh, I've been there. I've been there with jobs. I've been there with men. I've been there with, right? Even places I've allowed myself, not probably in the past 10 years, but before I would just allow myself to end up in environments because somebody else wanted to be there or I thought it was nice to do it. No more for that. No more for that. We can come out of post-quarantine. In fact, we can start right now with, guess what? The lives that we want, the energy that we want, the love that we want, the beauty that we want to see. Because guess what? God has given it to us all. It's just we put on blinders that don't allow us to see, right? And so today I want to ask you a couple of questions, right? I always give you a couple of things you can think about, you can journal on, you can take it to prayer, you can take it into your meditation and quiet time, is what is coming up for you? I've had a couple of conversations with friends, right, who a lot of us are designing businesses and doing really amazing things. I am around some really high-powered, amazing, I feel like life designing women. And the question is not like, how well do we love ourselves in our lives, but how can we do it better? How can it feel even better? How can it be even more authentic and even more in alignment with all the things that we want to do, in more alignment with our natural gifts, abilities, and skills that truly lights us up? See, I think that post-quarantine or pre-quarantine, got the little guy here, pre-quarantine, a lot of us were settling into spaces. Because guess what? We had a status quo. We had a status quo that was being, perpetuated all around us, being perpetuated generationally. We were, some people call it living in generational curses, creating different effects by certain causes that we were making in our lives, right? There's certain laws that just happen in this universe that we live in. And so right now, guess what the quarantine has given us permission to do? To say, get out of here. We're done with that. We're done with the old. It's time now to start creating whole new paradigms. And for many of us, that may not look like going out and creating, a whole new government. We're not even talking about that. I'm talking about you, your world. And that world begins with God and you and your mind and your heart and your spirit. And so some of us, quarantine is our permission slip to redesign what feels good for us and what we were put here on the planet to do. Because if we haven't realized it, time or life, our beautiful breaths are sacred, but they are not guaranteed. And so quarantine is giving us permission, right, to recreate our normal. And that normal, that standard, that barometer, that vibration, that frequency, all of those things begins with you. It really does. It really does. It begins with you listening to God. It begins with you following. It begins with you being true. It begins with you living in integrity, you living in alignment, you being honest about what's coming up for you. So that's the first question, right? What's coming up for you? We've now been in quarantine, I think, in California, 7 or 8 weeks. And if anything, right, most of us are starting to hear some message, hey, this thing isn't working. I really don't want to go back to the job as normal. I really, even sadly, some people's relationships are not working. My old dreams of being a homeschooling mom, I'm kind of giving those up now. See, that's the reason why. I'm used to having my space, my time, right? And him being actually in an amazing private school. But again, we can have these mental constructs. They can be redone. They can be reformed. They don't have to be what they've always been. That's the permission slip of quarantine. And so what new beliefs do you need to have to step out, let's call it PQ, post-quarantine, into the highest and best you, into the God designed you, into the divine you, living your fullest with happiness, joy, peace, power, and presence? What part of you needs to step into that, right? What part of you needs new beliefs, right? And then the third question I want to ask, as we're getting ready to get off, as I'm getting ready to, as they say, land the plane, is how do you step fully into your power, right? How do you step fully into your power? And so for some of us, that might require us to be even more still, more quiet, do a little bit more meditation. If you need them, let me know, I got them. So that you can go back and revisit, or else get a new vision, right, of what that you is in your full and highest power. Ladies, you have permission to, from this day forward, step into the next level you, the future you, the you that wants to be all of her dreams, all of her goals. Quarantine is that beautiful permission slip. It's not like you needed it, because we can give it to ourselves, like we can muster it up within ourselves. We can decide, right? We can make a new decision. We can create a new belief. And that's how we begin to recreate our lives. That's some of the stuff I teach. But I really want to encourage us. I'm always looking for the gift. I'm always looking for the blessing. I think that's having a miracle mindset. That's continuing to renew my mind, to look for the things that are good, right, and true. And what we know that is good and true is that quarantine, despite the losses and despite the pain, it's bittersweet. It's giving us a permission slip. It's giving us permission to begin anew, to rebuild, to create a life that we've always desired, to redefine, to nourish ourselves. And in some places, clean house. Yes, clean house, okay? Because we have to make space for the new, right? You can't have all this old stuff in here when you want new stuff. What? So I just wanted to get on, right? God, the divine creator, is always still speaking, right? Still speaking in quarantine. Quarantine is available for you, is available for me. And I believe that there's so many gifts of quarantine. So if you wanted to revisit clarity, go back and listen to last week's, and trust that there's a permission slip. There's beauty in all of this. There's beauty in all of it. And I'm encouraging you to grab a hold and define that beauty and meaning for yourself, right? Again, for those of you that are interested in working with me, that know that this next vision requires a guide, a coach, someone who's been there, someone who keeps elevating and creating, I feel like, beauty out of whatever life deals me. I didn't even realize before that that's actually a skill set. It's a vibration that I hold. It is a part of who I am. And I feel like a God-given skill to help me think differently and to see sometimes what's not there, but what's supposed to be and what can be. And so if you want to get into that energy, that type of guidance, that type of mindset, make sure you message me. I have a couple of one-on-one spots. I hope that this has blessed you. I hope that there's a part of it that resonates with you. And then I hope that there's a part of it that's encouraging you to grow, stretch, and think something new. And the greatest gift and the greatest, I feel like, tip is if you could share it out, you know, for someone that needs a new word about quarantine, as well as not only like, but give a love, and then comment. Let me know, share your thoughts, what resonated with you. You want to say hello or goodbye because we're getting off?
Bye.
Bye. So have an amazing week. Welcome to May. And I'm excited to hear all the shifts that your permission slips are creating. Talk to you soon.
You did great. You did great. You did great. You did great.
Thanks, bye.